He restores my soul. He leads me down paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Welcome to part 3 of our study in Psalm 23. Each of these verses seems to have 2 parts of it, and we're going to jump in really quickly. And this first part of the verse really connects with verse 2. It says, he restores my soul. Most English translations render the beginning of verse 3 as either he restores, as we just read in the ESV version, or as he refreshes my soul when describing the terminology that David wrote in the Hebrew language. While neither of these are incorrect, they don't quite convey the gravity of the work that God does within us, providing the rest we need. David uses this term restore to paint an astounding picture of God's restorative work. When he is our shepherd, when the Lord is our shepherd, he leads us to spaces that we can be revitalized in him. And that's really what the word comes down to. Restore really means to bring back to life, to revitalize, to bring vitality to. And that's what David is saying, that when he makes us lie down in green pastures and when he leads us beside the quiet and the still waters, he can revitalize the areas of our lives that have ceased to flourish, that he can inject life where death has reigned, that he can rebuild that which has been torn down, that his rest is the peace our hearts most desperately crave. And following the Good Shepherd, following the Lord, brings rebirth to our soul. In the season that you're in right now, the question becomes about surrender. Can you surrender? Are you surrendering now? Are you living a life of surrender, like truly, not just in word, but really deep in your heart? Are you living a life surrendered to the Good Shepherd? The question then becomes, what do you need to surrender to the Lord today, right now? What do you need to surrender? What is it that's keeping you from following the voice of the Lord to the green pastures and to the still waters so that you can get the restoration of your soul? The second part of this verse says, he leads me in paths of righteousness for his name's sake. And we should know as biblical Christians that there's a difference between external righteousness and the kind of righteousness that we're talking about in this session. Anyone can maintain a level of good behavior for a time, but apart from a transformed heart by God's grace, we will always run out of fuel. It doesn't matter how good you are, how much you stack up the good versus the bad. And from the world's perspective, when we think about religion or when you think about even Christianity, it doesn't really make sense. But when Jesus comes in to offer, and he is our good shepherd, our righteousness comes about not by our own efforts, but by the obedience of Jesus Christ. And by faith, his righteousness is counted as our own. This is mind-blowingly, amazingly good news. And this is what sets us free. This is what fuels our obedience, the free gift of God's grace, that we are not judged by our will and power and ability to do good, but by the righteousness of Jesus, and we can live and walk under his righteousness. And so according to this verse, the reason God leads us into rest and guides us into paths of righteousness, the second part says, is for the glory of his name. It is not, listen, it is not because he needs the value that we have to offer him. Rather, by his grace, he has made us his own, so that his name would be known through his love for us. That whatever happens in our life is really for the glory of God. And if the Lord is your shepherd, he has made you righteous, not based on your own merit, but based on the perfect record of Christ's obedience on your behalf. Stop trying to earn God's acceptance and begin living out the acceptance you already have through the Son. That's the difference between a right and a wrong understanding of righteousness, and it has the potential to change everything. So I leave you with this. If the Lord revealed to you in any way that you have a misunderstanding of righteousness, if the conviction of the Spirit has come upon you, I pray that you would confess, speak to the Lord, and hear his voice. Ask that you would be freed from the false belief in order to walk in the truth of the Word of God, and so you can experience the very thing David is desiring and living and wanting his hearers to understand, that he, God, our good shepherd, restores our soul. And he leads us in paths of righteousness. Why does he do it all? Well, it is all for his name's sake. God bless you.